everyone, Eloise here today for Lawnfawn and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a mini shaped card to share with you all. I'm going to be using the Build a Castle dies, the little dragon stamp set, as well as the new brick stencil as well, and then a little later on I'm going to be bringing in a few other stamp sets just for additional images, but these are the main things that I'm using today. So what I really wanted to do as soon as I saw this Build a Castle die set was to create like a shaped card. They're some of my favorite to create because you can use them for tags or you can put them on top of a gift. I just think they're really versatile and super fun to create. So I need to go ahead and make the main castle shape a card base. So as you can see, it does have a little window opening in the center, but we're going to do some partial die cutting to avoid cutting that out, and it's super easy to do. So I just went ahead and taped it down to a piece of white cardstock with a little bit of washi tape. And then I'm going to go ahead and start partially die cutting. So I'm going to cut the bottom half first, and you can see here I'm just placing my plate over the bottom half of the die, avoiding that little arched window in the center. I'm going to run it through a die cutting machine just like so, and then pull it back out, and you can see that I only cut the bottom half where that plate was applying pressure. I'm then going to go ahead and rotate this piece 90 degrees, place it back on top of my plate, and do the exact same thing. I'm just going to place the plate back over, avoiding that center bit, and you can see it just cut the right hand side here. Now it's time to do the top, and I'm going to repeat the same process, just put the plate over the top where I want it to cut, avoiding that little window section, run that through a die cutting machine, and then I'm going to do the last step on the left hand side. So again, just repeating that same step, putting in the plates and running it through my die cutting machine as shown here. Now once that piece was all cut, you can see that it comes out of the die really easily. You do have a little bit of like dry embossing kind of in the center from where the little window was, and also where some of the like staggered pattern is in the die already, but that's not too bad. It's okay, you can still write over it and it's still perfect for the inside of a card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat that same process once again to have all of the pieces to create my card base. Now that I have both pieces cut out, I've just went ahead and set them off to the side. And now it's time to create like the front part of the card with some coloured cardstock. So I have another castle shaped die here, and I just cut that out of some paper bag cardstock. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out the little door piece that comes in the set out of the center of this die as well. I went ahead and ran that through my die cutting machine, and then here I have some wood grain brown cardstock as well in a darker shade, and I thought that this would be really fun for the accent pieces. So I went ahead and cut the door frame piece out again, as well as the top bits for the castle and also the window frame as well. And I also cut the two little side pieces for the castle out of some more paper bag cardstock as well. So now that all of the die cutting is done, I'm going to leave the dark brown wood grain pieces left alone. They're going to be left plain, but for the pieces that are just cut from the paper bag cardstock, I'm going to make sure that I use the brick stencil over the top to ink blend some color on there to give it a little bit of extra texture and definition and for it to look more like a castle. So I went ahead and used a little bit of gathered twigs to stress ink. I just thought that this was the pretty perfect brown shade. It's not too dark, not too light. And I used one of these blending brushes, and I'm just going really heavy-handed on the bottom half of the castle and then kind of fading it into a little bit of a lighter color at the top. I just really liked the way that this looked. So now that all of this is ink blended on there, I also did the other castle piece that I die cut also because I wasn't sure if I wanted to use the one with the opening or the one without. So I went ahead and just did both just in case. So now that all of those pieces are all ready to go, it's time to assemble my card base. So I just pulled out my scoring board and I'm just scoring at the 3-inch mark just with a bone folder on the very top bit of this castle. I'm folding it back on itself and creasing it to make sure I get a nice fold, and then the other piece is just going to be adhered on top. So I just grabbed a little bit of tape adhesive and adhered that to the very top section where it was scored, and then I'm just going to press them two together to create my little mini card base. It's super simple, You can do this with any sort of image or shape. It's really, really simple to do. Now that the card base is completed, I just wanted to go ahead and use a little bit of yellow on the inside for the little window and the door opening to show that there's kind of like a light shining on inside. So I just went ahead and used a little bit of number 2 pencil cardstock, and I added adhesive onto the back and stuck it directly onto the card base. And then I did decide to go ahead and use the little castle piece that had the door opening. So I added foam tape on the back of that and adhered it into place. And then after that was adhered, I went ahead and added some liquid glue to the back of the little window frame and adhered that over the top of the window opening. And I also did the same thing for the tops of the castle areas as well and adhered those on. And I also added more foam tape onto the back of the tower pieces for each side of the castle and adhered those down in place as well. So now that the castle is all completed and all of the pieces are adhered down, this is how it looks. I really like the way it turned out. It looks super cute. And so now it's time to colour in the images that I'm going to use for the card. So here I have the little dragon stamp set, and I'm just going to use the dragon, and I'm also going to use the sentiment on the inside of the card. And then I decided to pull out the tiny fairy tale, and I'm going to use the little knight in there. And I'm also going to pull out the Village Heroes stamp set and use the 2 little cloud pieces that come in that set as well. I just thought that would be super adorable. Now that I've stamped out my images, it's time to go ahead and colour them in with Copic markers. So I coloured in the dragon with this darker green colour. So I used G28, YG67, YG63 and YG61. Sorry the colours aren't shown on the screen at the start. I actually forgot to zoom in my camera, but it's fixed now. So I just finished off colouring in the dragon with those colours. I also coloured in a few of the stripes on his belly as well. I just thought that would be kind of cute. And then I pulled in a different colour combination of green to finish the rest of him off. So now I'm using a little bit more of a limey green colour. So I'm using YG17, YG03, YG01 and YG00, and I'm just going to colour in the little spikes on his back and his wings and the other stripes on his belly as well. I then pulled out E21, E02, E00 and E000 for the horns and also the face of the little knight as well. And for his clothes, I used some grey colours. I used C7, C5, C3 and C1 for the darker areas, and then used C3, C1, C0 and C00 for the lighter areas. For the clouds, I decided to use B000 and B000 and just added those to the left hand side and then blended those out with the 0 marker. And then for the top of his little hat, I used R24, R22, R21 and R30, and also used R30 for a little bit of blush on their cheeks as well. Once they were all coloured, I went ahead and cut them out and arranged the scene on top of my little card. I really liked the way this looked, so I went ahead and added foam tape onto the back and adhered them down. Since I didn't have any room on the front of my card for a sentiment, I decided that I needed to still add something a little bit extra on here, I felt like, to pull it all together. So I decided to pull out the Bug Deal stamp set as well as a Swan stamp set, and so I used the speech bubble from a Bug Deal and then this little heart to put on the inside, and I really just thought that would be kind of cute to do for a little accent on the front of the card. So I just used the same colours that I used earlier to colour that in. I also then cut it out and adhered it onto the front of my card. So once I went ahead and did that, it was time to stamp the sentiment on the inside of the card. So you don't have to stamp a sentiment on the inside of the card if you didn't want to, but I thought that for this particular card, I'd probably use it just on top of a gift. And so the message that I'd want to write on the inside honestly probably wouldn't be very long. And so I thought adding a sentiment in there would be pretty perfect and fitting for this type of card. So I just went ahead and stamped the sentiment from the Little Dragon stamp set. It says, "May your day be filled with adventure." I just thought that was super cute. And then that basically finished up my card for today. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed Making shaped cards is one of my most favorite things to do, especially when they're super mini like this. I just find them really cute and easy to design, and you could even just use this technique for any sort of die that you may have, or like a large image. I've done this before with other stamp sets and it turns out really cute. So thank you so much for stopping by today. All of the supplies will be listed down below and linked over at the blog, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for stopping by today.